When we overpromise and underachieve, that's when the trust tends to wobble. Then we start to give up on the relationship before it's even started. Welcome to the podcast, Keeping It Real, the Purpose-Driven Life with Laura and Lynn.
Tune in for candid conversations, practical tips, inspiring stories, and actionable advice on navigating life and business.
And this week's episode is Authenticity in Sales, Building Trust with Your Customers. So building trust with your customers. So this is huge. This is a big thing nowadays. What used to work in sales really does not work nowadays. And we kind of all agree with that the old sales of being a little bit sleazy, a little bit, pushy is really, it's gone out the window. So what we have now is we have authenticity in sales. And so I'm going to tell you a little story. So I started with this packaging business with my partners. And so we had 4 partners when we started. Well, one of them decided that they wanted to do a different venture. So the salesman, that he was basically our mostly the sales guy, he decided to leave. And my partner, who's been very, very successful in business, looks at me and says, that means that you're going to have to sell. And I was really in charge of the other stuff behind the scenes. But then I knew, hey, I'm going to have to step to the plate. And so I told myself, the only thing I have is to be genuine and just to talk from my heart and to listen to what they have to say and then have a conversation back with them. And that's what I did. I just went out just as myself. And just talked about what it is that we could provide, what we were positive about, what we had experience in this background of packaging, and that what we were going to do for them. And that's all I had. That's what I did. So I went out. I ended up being very successful with that because people wanted to work with me. So when we're talking about authenticity in sales, the number one thing is for you to be real. People want you to be real. Be real with me. You say you're going to do something, are you really going to do it? And make sure that you follow through, because the number one thing is when you build a customer, you really want a customer for life. You don't want a customer that's here for 6 months and then they've decided, well, they're not doing anything for me and go away. No, you want a customer and you want to do it one time. And so go out there. If you need to get brushed up on your skills, then brush up on your skills. I was able to work with him. He was also a phenomenal salesperson. And I was able to work with him on brushing up my skills after I said, hey, I've been going out, I've been doing fairly well, but hey, can you help me out a little bit and help me up with my skills? And so we did. We went with that, and that even made me better. So number one thing is go out, be genuine, be yourself, and then know your product. And know where you want to come from. Where do you want to end? Meaning, at the end of the day, what I want is I want a customer out of this, and I want it to be a positive experience. And the number one thing that we worked on was making it a win-win, meaning it wasn't just good for us, it was good for them. So if you can get clear on that before you go out, there's nothing you can't do. So, Laura?
Yeah, I really like how I can remember us talking about your approach with a win-win, that it should always feel like you're in a positive situation and that your client's in a positive situation, that they know they're getting what they want from the relationship. So I'd even go beyond saying it's a customer. It's really, for me, it's about a client. It's about building that relationship and building that trust and knowing that I have to earn that trust. So something that I've used in my experiences is that I've never considered myself a salesperson. So in not considering myself a salesperson, I was like, well, how am I going to sell? And I realized, it's really about talking about what the service and the benefits will be, what the win-win will be, so that I'm not feeling like it's a sales. if that makes sense. If, I'm not, I don't want it to feel like it's a transaction, but that it's really about, value. It's really about how is this going to improve someone's life? Because my services have been more around coaching and mentoring. And so I really want to make sure that my clients feel like it's a benefit to them and that they're getting what's the value add for them. And it's a lot of it comes down to communication. So as the sender of information, when I'm sharing the business or the product, the services, when I'm sharing what the services are, I have to understand that I'm going to be sending information. I'm going to be talking about information from the lens of here are the facts. Here are the objectives. Here's what you will be receiving. This is what you'll be getting as the client. I have to understand that the client is going to hear from their place of emotion first. So as they're hearing what I'm saying, they may not just be hearing the facts, but old stories might come up, old fears, experiences that they've had with other companies, with other businesses. And so I have to understand that they aren't going to just hear the facts. They're going to hear from a place of bringing in their past experiences. And I may not know what those are. So that's where, going back to what you originally said about authenticity, that's why it's really important that you're real and that people don't get any feelings from past negative experiences when they're talking to you, because you want them to be able to really believe what it is you're saying and to know you're being authentic.
Yeah, exactly. So probably the most important thing following that is just to have everything in place. So it's you have this conversation together, you guys decide to move forward in the process, and then everything from there is put together. So it's just a smooth flow process from start to finish. One, having a wonderful conversation in the beginning, and then to make sure that the processes and the implementations are in place as you finish that conversation, so that it just continues. So, and a lot of people, they won't have that. They'll have the sales in place and they won't have the other part in place. So it's important to have all of it in place, to have your whole, because it's sales from the beginning to the end, right? It's not just right at the beginning of the conversation. It's the whole piece is sales. So it's to take care of your customer all the way to the end.
Well, and I'd also say that it's about, you don't want to make promises that you can't keep.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that if you're saying you can deliver something by such and such date, that is true, that it's not, that you've really, like, you don't overpromise, that you are really authentic in terms of, know your boundaries, know the process, like you said, from start to finish, know how long something's going to take. A great example is maybe it's only going to take a few days to get back to them. Like you need 3 days to write up the business proposal. Well, tell them 5. And then that way, when you get done early and you send it to them early, they're happy because, oh, you met your deadline and they're not waiting. It's when we, overpromise and underachieve, that's when the trust tends to wobble. It doesn't, and we've all been in those situations where then we start to give up on the relationship before it's even started.
Exactly. Yes. And you don't want to have a relationship start off kind of on the bad foot. You really want it to have it start off on the good foot and just actually keep getting better and better and better. So yes, that's our episode for sales. And again, we're also going to be providing, we have one-on-one coaching if you need help with that. We have group support. So you can jump in the group and you can work on what it is that you need to do for your presentation. We have all kinds of support to help you with that.
Yeah, thanks. And we'll see you next week.